Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the Old Warlock Podcast. Not sure what number this is, but welcome back. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy lives, your busy schedules, whatever you've got going on at home, to come and spend some time with us here at the Old Warlock. Elephant in the room. Jim's not here. Our good friend Jim, our good buddy Jim, your pal, your friend. Jimbo is not here, and there's a very, very good reason for this. Our good buddy has absconded to the great continent of Europe for a multiple-week vacation. He's just out there having a good time. He's seeing a lot of pretty cool stuff from what he has told me thus far, from the images that I've received, from some of the stories that I've heard. He's on a cruise, actually, going around Europe. And we're going to talk about some of the things that he's been doing and kind of how they apply to some D&D, both in this very, very open-ended, very free-form podcast with me, your good buddy Alex. And we'll also be talking about a lot of these things moving forward in some of our future videos and our future podcasts. So you know what? We're really just going to see how this goes. Is it going to be a raging success? Possibly. Is it just going to be me talking at you for a little while with a pretty quick viewer drop off after not that long? That's also definitely possible. So we're just going to see how long I can talk at you guys before you get bored and take off. This is where I would cue the intro music if I had access to any of our editing software where I live, which I unfortunately do not. So imagine the playing right now with a little old warlock with the smoke coming up out of the pipe. What I thought we would do today is just kind of live vicariously through Jim, talk about some of the places that he has been, some of the places that he's going to get to go on his trip, and then I thought we would maybe just look through some comments on YouTube on some of our videos and answer any questions, kind of reflect on some of the things that you guys have had to say on some of the videos that we've put up recently. So we all miss Jim. Of course, we know that it's a shame that he's gone, but his, again, multi-week long vacation is taking him all across the Mediterranean Sea. So let's just take a moment here. Let's close our eyes. Unless you're driving a car or doing something important, then don't close your eyes. But let's close our eyes and just think and imagine the beautiful blue, expansive sea out in front of our friend Jim on a beautiful white ocean liner. Smell that salt air. Hear those seagulls chirping, squawking. I don't know what seagulls do in the background. Just take all that in. And then imagine you open your eyes and you are confronted by some of the most interesting history that you will ever encounter anywhere in the world. That's what our friend Jim is experiencing right now. So as a quick little rundown of the places that he's going to get to go, he's going to be seeing quite a bit of Italy. He's going to start off in Rome, see quite a few interesting places in Italy. He's going to be seeing a place that he is very interested in seeing, and a place I am very interested in seeing, called Malta. It's a small island in the Mediterranean, if you aren't familiar with where Malta is. But what he is particularly excited to be learning about is the history of the Knights of Malta, which I believe are a Knights Templar sect that spent some time there both during and after the Crusades. Very interesting history with some of the things that they experienced on Malta, both just the order itself, but also their relationship with the Ottomans and other Islamic groups that came through and had quite a bit of conflict with. But it's a pretty important part of the history of medieval Europe. He's also going to be spending a lot of time in Greece. That's actually where he's going to get to spend most of his time. Namely, the Isle of Rhodes. He's going to get to spend some time in Athens as well. And this might be the thing that I'm most jealous about, to be honest with you, is he is going to get to see the Oracle at Delphi, or where the Oracle at Delphi was, which is pretty darn cool. For those of you who don't know, I'm no expert about any of these subjects and the things that he's going to be saying, but I would encourage you to go and look up the last prophecy of the Oracle of Delphi and what was said. And I think that it had a very, very long time ago. It's history by this point. But I'm not gonna say too much about it, but if you look that up and go read again what was said, it's a very sad thing. It's a heartbreaking thing to kind of imagine being said, that this thing that's been there for thousands of years is suddenly not there anymore. But it was a very important place for a very long time. And again, I won't go too much into it, but I would encourage you guys to go look up when you get the chance. Last Prophecy of the Oracle of Delphi. Interesting stuff. But I for one am exceptionally jealous of our good friend Jim. But just to give you guys an idea of where he is, what he's spending his time doing, I think I'm getting the feeling that either in a video or in a podcast coming up here soon, we will get a pretty big rundown of some of the places he saw and how undoubtedly they are going to be influencing his, and by extension our, Dungeons and Dragons playing and activities. But with that, I thought it could be kind of fun here just to scroll through some of the comments on our latest videos. First and foremost, with a lot of the ones we've put out recently here, talking about monster and treasure assortments from 1977, some of our podcasts, and some of the world building videos, the saga videos, some of the tabletop role playing game stuff we've done. The comments that you guys have left have been exceptionally kind. You all have had some very nice things to say, even if you sometimes disagree with what we're saying. A lot of really nice things that you guys have been saying. There's one that I'm looking for here. Hold on just 1 second here. Yes, so this is a comment on our Monster and Treasure Assortments 1977 video. This is our most recent one that's come out when this will be released. I'm recording this podcast, if you're listening to it on Friday. When it comes out, I'm recording this yesterday, on the Thursday before. But we got a comment from Sharp Mountain Games 9303 that says, these kinds of tables are really great for jogging the imagination. Always nice to spend time with you both. And that was a really nice thing to say. So I want to, if you're listening, Sharp Mountain Games 9303, I want to thank you for leaving that comment. Things like that, it's nice to be reminded that we've built a little bit of a community here, that you guys really are our friends. We like being able to interact with you on the comments, and when we've gotten to meet some of you in person and hear what you have to say. So that was an exceptionally nice thing to say. We appreciate that. Also talking about the same video, it was interesting. Sorry, no, this is a different video. The one we made a while back called D&D in the 1970s, Dungeon Geomorphs. We had a comment by someone named Mr. Fleem a few days back talking about why we didn't really get why the Dungeon Geomorphs were the color they were. They're kind of this blue color. And he said they were in blue so you couldn't photocopy them. But TSR didn't count on me tracing over them with a black pen, which is a great example of some of the innovation that we love to see from you guys. But that is an interesting portion of history, which I didn't necessarily think about, that they were concerned about people photocopying their products, which makes sense if they're selling this special paper en masse for people to go and use for a pretty specific part of the game. But yeah, we appreciate you guys contributing that sort of information. As I've gotten into this, we're now 9 minutes into this podcast, I realize that this could be a little bit boring, that I'm just yapping at you here, that I'm trying to structure the video in some kind of way. So I think we may transition into more of a stream of consciousness video here with a gaming theme. I was talking to some coworkers of mine today, some people that I work with who are also very heavily involved in the gaming world. Very nice guys, really enjoy working with them. In particular, we were talking about Warhammer, which I think is it's a game that if you've watched any of the miniatures videos we've made, we've discussed it a little bit, but haven't really, we haven't really played Warhammer that much. Jim has played Warhammer a couple times. He has a Necron's army, that he put together and that he painted. And I know he's gone down to play with our friend John a couple of times. Just kind of figure out the mechanics, figure out the rules, and see how, if nothing else, see how much further they kind of want to go down this rabbit hole of buying Warhammer pieces and painting Warhammer pieces. And talking to these friends of mine, these coworkers of mine, it's interesting to see how universal some of the opinions on Warhammer are, because I think that it, for a lot of people, not just us here at the Old Warlock, but it's an intimidating game to start getting involved with. And I think that with some of our, not experiences necessarily, but what we've observed at gaming conventions, the Warhammer crowd, they're a great crowd because they're so passionate about what they do. But it's an intimidating crowd, I would say, if you've never played the game or if you don't know what you're doing, getting started with it. And I realize that that's not a be all end all comment, because there have been a lot of people who have been very welcoming, not only in, Warhammer 40K to us, but into a lot of other miniatures wargaming to try and get us involved in what's going on. But it's just interesting because we were having a lot of conversations about how you get started. What is bringing people into the game? What's expanding the base of this game and getting new players involved? How does that process work? Because I feel like with Dungeons and Dragons, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's part of the, I guess, zeitgeist of pop culture. It's part of just, especially in the United States, and I can only speak for the United States, but it's a big part of just pop culture at this point. And I think a lot of that has to do with, TV shows like Stranger Things and what have you. But D&D, I feel like, is built in such a way that it just, people have heard of it and they want to get involved with it and they want to try playing it. And chances are a lot of people know someone who has played D&D before, who maybe has some experience with it. And if it's something that you're interested in, you probably run in those circles anyway, to some degree at least. And you'll know somebody who can get you introduced. But I feel like games like Warhammer don't really have the same mass appeal. And it's been interesting over the past year to see how essentially the Warhammer Space Marine video game that came out, how that's affected the player base, how that's affected me, how that's affected people that I know getting interested in these games and trying them out for the first time. Because I'll be honest with you, I have never played Warhammer 40K, the actual version of the game. We played Space Hulk one time at a convention that we went to, which was a lot of fun. If you've never had the chance to play Space Hulk, I guess it's the board game version of Warhammer 40K, pretty easy to play. A lot of fun. There's a video game version of that as well that I play by myself just for the heck of it. That sounded sad. This is the game that I play by myself because no one wants to play it with me. That's fine. Especially when Jim's in Europe. But anyway, it's been interesting to see how I feel like this video game that's come out has gotten a lot of people interested in the game. It's grown the player base. There are more people taking an interest in the lore, taking an interest in the game itself, maybe buying some of the figurines, just wanting to explore the universe a little bit more, if nothing else. And I was trying to think if there was an equivalent to that with Dungeons and Dragons, because I really do think, looking back on it, I mean, I was in high school when the first season, I was pretty early in high school when the first season of Stranger Things came out, and the impact that had, that was even just observable around people that I was in school with, was pretty massive, because it made it cool. Not necessarily, it didn't make it like, how to explain this? It normalized it, I think, in that the Dungeons and Dragons fit in with the aesthetic of the show, which was very late 70s, 1980s. Carpets are yellow, brown, shag, wood paneling on the walls, going to arcades. If you're a kid, you're riding your bike everywhere and hanging out with your friends, and D&D fit right into that aesthetic. And that it got so many people so like viscerally is not the right word, but vehemently interested in it straight out of the gate. Like everyone that I knew who watched that show wanted to try D&D. And it was never like me playing D&D. It was never something that I hid from anybody. It was never something that I didn't want people to know about. But all of a sudden, like friends of mine who were aware that I had played Dungeons & Dragons were like, I want to try this. Just because they had watched the show and just because Dungeons & Dragons was referenced in the show and because the kids were playing this game. They were rolling the dice and they had the maps and they had the figurines on the table. They were moving everything around and having a good time. It was a big deal for D&D. But I going back previous to that, I just don't know if there was anything. I mean, I can't speak to anything that happened before I was born, but it feels like we talked about the Satanic Panic and how in some of our old videos, and in my opinion, and it's easy for me to say because I wasn't there, but it seemed like in a lot of ways the Satanic Panic, like we've said, did more to blossom the community of Dungeons and Dragons than it did to actually hinder it in any substantive capacity. But I don't know. It's just interesting to think about and to talk to people about how they start playing these games, because I think everybody has a different background with it. Everybody has a different story to it, and I don't know. And it was just fun to talk to talk to people who brought a different perspective to it than me, because a lot of the guys that I was talking to today, they were introduced to these games by either their families, like I was, or just friends that they knew. But it didn't seem like there was. I find very few people in my travels that seem to happen by these games naturally. That it's like, I don't know, maybe they're just walking through a Target and they see the D&D box starter set that they sell now for $5. They're like, oh, I've never done this before. Let's give it a go. Time to find the community on my own. Time to buy all the stuff on my own. Time to prepare myself to play the game, to do the research, to figure out if this is something that I want to do before they actually, if they don't necessarily know somebody who's already involved with it or have some sort of in another way, whether that's through a movie or a video game or whatever else. I wonder if I really am just yammering at you guys. That's fine. Comment down below if you're still here. I'm curious to see if any of you still are. Maybe we'll make this a regular thing. If this video is positively received, we'll start doing Alexander solo podcasts. I don't know. Comment down below if you want to see Jim do solo podcasts. Okay, now comment down below if you want us to keep doing podcasts in the way that we have been, which crazy if you do want that, because it's almost like that's what we've been doing the whole time. Yeah. I don't know, guys. I just think gaming's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it's nice to hear about other people getting involved in it. And a lot of the people that I talk to, some of the people that I was talking to today, I wouldn't necessarily expect this to be something that they're interested in or that they want to do, but there's almost an instant community that comes with it, right? Where I don't know if you've ever seen the clip of you may have seen this video. I feel like it's pretty common in our circles. There's a Henry Cavill is on he's like being interviewed for something. I'm assuming when he was doing The Witcher. He's being interviewed, and there are a few other people sitting in this interview with him. And I think the interviewer asks him a question of what do you nerd out on? What do you geek out on? And Henry Cavill, immediately pops up. He's like, well, for me, it's Warhammer 40,000. I think he says that's my jam. That's what I do. That's my thing. And one of the other guys on this panel with him that's being interviewed is like, oh, what army are you running right now? And he's like, oh, the Custodes. This guy's like, oh, I'm doing Necrons next time. And immediately they're like friends, buddies. They're gonna get together. They're gonna start playing Warhammer 40K. And it's neat to see how it brings people together, how it forms these relationships that otherwise might not be formed. Like, these people might not become friends if it wasn't for the games that they're playing. I don't know. I think, and that's always hammered home by gaming conventions. Whenever we go to a convention and talk to the people there and talk about their backstories and how they got involved with some of these games, it's always, especially a lot of the people who run the games, who like volunteer their time to come and run a game because they like it, because they care about it, because they think it's fun and they want other people to be exposed to it. It's just a cool thing. It's fun to be a part of this community and to hear what you guys have to say, to hear your opinions on things, and to just be a part of it with you. I don't think Jim and I, in the conventions that we've gone to quite a few. I can't say that in any of the games that we've played that we've had a genuinely negative experience with anybody. It's just fun across the board. Everybody's there to have a good time. Yeah. Well, there's no audio version of this, so if you're either watching this or you're not, and I'm pretty convinced by this point that there is nobody left watching this video, and that's okay. We've made a commitment to put something out as often on Fridays as we possibly can. This is what you're getting, guys. I hope you enjoy. Somehow I've been talking for 22 minutes. The gift of gab, one might say. I don't know if it's a gift. I think it's just me looking at my stove and talking. You guys want an apartment tour? You're not going to get one. I'm not going to give you an apartment tour. There's not very much to see. It is tastefully decorated, though. Rest assured. Rest assured at that. And I do have a gelatinous cube on display. You know what? I'll show you my gelatinous cube. That would be a fun way. That's a fun prop to bring into everything. So hold on. While I walk off screen, don't you guys leave the video, okay? Don't do it. I'll be right back. Just 1 second. Hold on. Hey, gang. I'm back. Did you miss me? Check this out, though. We may have shown this before. I may have posted this on our Instagram before, something like that. You guys like that? It's my gelatinous cube model. It's sitting on my shelf, sitting on my bookshelf with some of my books. See, it's really cool. I don't know if you guys can tell. You might not be able to hear. I'll hold it up really close so you can see. See, inside, everyone's turned to a skeleton. All the people that have been run over by the gelatinous cube turned to skeletons. The beholder here on the outside, you see that guy? Skeleton on the inside. Pretty cool. Pretty neat homage to, I don't know if it's an homage because it just is a gelatinous cube. Pretty cool, though. One of the centerpieces of my decorating here. Pretty exciting stuff. I know they did a line. I can't remember if it was GameStop. It might have been GameStop that put out a line of all of this stuff. Because Jimbo's got the big statue from the cover of the Player's Handbook, first edition Player's Handbook. He's got one of those. It's a dice tower that was the same release. If you know the release of models that I'm talking about, there's a name for it. They're all called the same thing, but I can't remember what they are. And if you remember what they're called, or if you have any of these things, comment down below. I'm sorry. to everyone watching this. Well, I think that I think this is a good time to wrap up this episode of the Old Warlock Podcast, because it's now been 25 minutes that I've been sitting here talking at you, essentially, as we've really accomplished nothing together. But you know what? This has been fun. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed being able to just tell you guys my thoughts and feelings about the world. I hope it's illustrated to you that in reality, there's not a lot going on up here. It's mostly empty space. So when I have to spout that space, turns out there's not a whole lot of interesting stuff that gets released. But fear not, my friends, Romans, my countrymen. Well, some of you are my countrymen, some of you aren't, but that's okay. You're my countrymen. Right in there. Right in there. Fear not, everyone. Jim will be back soon, and we will begin having more structured versions of the Old Warlock Podcast videos, etc. here very soon. You guys probably didn't even know that anything was wrong because we released a video last Friday. Yeah. Well, you guys are the best. We think you're fantastic. We thank you all for watching the videos. And this really is a lot of fun. One of my favorite things that I get to do in my life is spend time here talking to you guys about stuff. Not necessarily here in this context, though I am having a great time, but just being able to talk about gaming and have a way to talk about gaming and how important it is to me and my father, Jim, and how big of a role is played throughout our lives. So anyway, you guys are pretty cool beans. Thanks for stopping by. If you are still here at this point, if you have made it through 26 minutes and 49 seconds of me talking to you, please comment, I'm really still here, in all caps, down in the comments below. It's an experiment, so please do that for me. Promise me you'll do it. Thanks. You guys are the best. All right, well, toodaloo. Keep your sword arms free and your shield arms strong. I saw somebody comment that as well, and that was a pretty cool callback. So we'll talk to you guys later. Keep your sword arms free. I'm Alex. I'm Jim. Bye-bye now.